Hello, this is Kaii Marie, and you're listening to episode 6, season 1 of the Healing Element podcast. If you're watching this episode on the Healing Element podcast YouTube channel, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you are listening by audio, please be sure to download today's episode. Today is our final episode of Dr. Joy DeGruy's work, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. For the past few weeks, we've been talking about this theory. I hope you have found it helpful. This is the last episode of this series. Please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Healing Element podcast, a weekly discussion giving you the tools to understand and heal from intergenerational trauma. I am your host, Kaii Marie. To find out more information about the topics discussed today, visit kaimarie.com. Hello, this is Kaii Marie, and welcome to the Healing Element podcast. I'm so very happy that you decided to join me today. And I'm kind of sad too. You know why? I'm sad because this is the last episode of the series of Dr. Joy DeGruy's work, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. But we will be talking about this series, or I should say this theory, in episodes to come. But the first 6 episodes just focused on the theory so we can really get an understanding of historical trauma and intergenerational trauma as we start to move forward and have this discussion. So I hope that you found this information helpful. If you have, please be sure to just drop me a comment. You can let me know in the YouTube world or in podcast world, or just shoot me an email at kaimarie.jth@gmail. Let me know your thoughts, or if you would like me to go in depth a little bit more in one of the topics that we've covered over the last few episodes, please do, and I would be more than happy to do that. Okay, with that being said, y'all know what we've been doing for the past few weeks. I've been sharing with you my screen so that you can see the PowerPoint presentation. If you are interested in looking at the PowerPoint presentation because you are listening to this episode on the podcast, have no fears. You can go to the Healing Element podcast YouTube channel, and then you can check it out. So with that being said, I am going to share my screen so that way we can take a look at our last slide. I know, y'all, I can't sing, so I probably shouldn't have done that. All right, so this is episode 6. We're in our first season, woo woo. And yeah, I'm gonna round it down, as I said, this series. All right, so this is gonna be a quick overview of a few other solutions that Dr. Joy DeGruy, I gotta slow it down. I'm talking too fast and I'm like stumbling over my words. All right, so this is the last set of solutions that Dr. Joy DeGruy provides in her book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Please make sure you pick up to read. I highly recommend. All right, and so this solution that we're talking about today is the spirit of community. Again, all of this first, before we can have an impact in our community, we first have to have an impact on ourselves. How do we have an impact on ourselves? By beginning our healing journey. So before we can begin to reach out to other people, we have to do that self-work. That's something that I believe I spoke about in the last episode, that when I first really came into this healing space, I was just kind of like, oh, I want to help people heal. I want to reach these people. I want to tell them this is what you got to do to start to change your life. But then I realized that no, that's not the way you do it. How you begin to help others is through how you live your life. So I have enough work that I need to do on myself that's going to keep me very busy, and things that within myself, within my inner world, that I will continuously need to work on, right? At no point will I ever arrive. I will never reach a point where it's like, I have nothing else to work on. That day shall not come. So I need to continue to work on me, work on my trauma, work on other issues that I haven't dealt with or that continue to kind of pop back up. It's an ongoing process. That self-work is ongoing. It never ends. So I need to be focused on that. I can't, my focus is not on, well, you see what so-and-so doing? So-and-so don't need to be doing that. No. Now I can say, like, listen, this is what I recommend. I recommend that this is what we start doing. For example, yesterday, the last episode, where I talked about the impact of entertainers and how entertainers are coming into this space and kind of always kind of telling Black folks what we need to do. You need to vote, you need to go save yourself, you need to do this, you need that. So that, I can't look at it and say, listen, evidence shows that that isn't helpful, that doesn't work. And evidence also shows that entertainers are paid to entertain, right? And so when they get propped up in front of us to either talk to us about whatever issue, when actually it should be coming either from a politician or it should be coming from a leader in that space, right? So if it's about a health issue, it should be a person in the space of health that has done the study, has gone through school, or is some type of leader in that space because of the work they have done. Not from an entertainer who is just looking to, how do I still stay relevant? So let me just hop on this. This seems to be the topic that everyone's talking about. So I can stay relevant, so I can be useful. Let me just hop into this conversation. That isn't constructive. And we have seen that play out, that it's not constructive. So it is okay to have those type of conversations. But in that, you have to begin to do the work. And how you begin to have those conversations is through doing your own internal work. Then you kind of see, even for yourself, like what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And as I said in the last episode, as you do your own internal work, your view and how you see society, it definitely begins to change. And so I encourage you, I'm going to keep saying this, do the inner work, and I'll be here to help you all along the way. So as we start to do that inner work, that impacts the spirit of community, right? So as we do our work, then we say, okay, I now have a different view of myself. I now have a different view of my purpose. And therefore, that's going to impact my family and the community that we have. Now, going to the next solution that Dr. Joy DeGruy provides is establishing strong leadership. How do we have strong leadership? It depends on the people that are saying, this is now the leader. Now, I will say, people like the Reverend Al Sharpton has been deemed the leader of Black Americans. I'm not quite sure who deemed him the leader. Actually, I am. That's a whole other story. So he is seen as such. So as we start to do the inner work on ourselves, we begin to realize or see, is this person truly a leader? A leader is someone that empowers those around them. They want to see the people around them succeed. They want to see the people around them grow. The people that have this quote unquote leadership position in our community, is that what they're doing? Are they empowering the people around them? Are you seeing families become stronger? Are you seeing community become stronger because of the impact that they are having? If the answer is no, you gotta kind of think about this whole leadership title. Just something to think about. I only put one name out there, but start to think about it. When you have leaders in the community, when you see on television that they're like Trump is talking to Black leaders, I don't know who is grabbing up these people and saying that they are Black leaders. I wish we could have a conversation about that. Who is deeming these people Black leaders? Some of these people I've never heard of before. But they're apparently the leader of a community that I'm a part of. And I don't remember casting a vote for any of these people, writing to petition them to be a leader, but somehow they are the leader. All right, so in order to establish strong leadership, what do you first have to have? That strong community. How do you get the strong community? From each of us doing the self-work, right? So therefore, when someone has a leadership type of role, if you will, then we have certain expectations from that person, because now we have a more of a clear view of society, of community, of family. And it's not really, it's no longer foggy. It's no longer you just take whatever somebody gives you. It's like, no, now, okay, there's a set of principles here. Okay, now I have standards. You can't just kind of walk in and say, you know, this is what y'all need to do, and really telling us what we need instead of asking us what we need, right? So establishing strong leadership, and the leaders, if you want to say that, are chosen by the community. But if you have a community that hasn't really, there's no one in the community that's really done the work, really understands trauma, how it works, the importance of that self-work, then you're really not going to get the leadership that you need. Okay, and the other thing I do want to mention is this. There's a gentleman by the name of Neely Fuller, and he has had a profound, profound impact on my life. And there are many YouTube videos about him and his work. And he speaks a lot about racism. That's his body of work. How do we solve this problem? And he always says that we are our own leader. So when you think about that, we are our own leader. So that means in my life, I am my own leader. What is a leader? A leader is a person who's a visionary. Again, as I said, other people that are around you, you strengthen them, empower them. So if I am a leader in my own world, right? So that's my own space, my own being. I want to make sure that I am strong, mind, body, soul. I want to make sure that I am healing myself, mind, body, soul. I'm constantly doing that work to improve my being. Therefore, as I'm doing that constant work to improve my being, my inner world, my body, that's going to affect those around me, right? So that's going to affect my family, that's going to affect my community, and eventually that's going to affect society. So in that, you can see how that will then touch the spirit of community and leadership in the community. Okay? So just think about that for a moment. As we start to become leaders in our own world, as we start to not allow society to tell us the vision we should have for ourselves, but we look and say, okay, what's the vision I want for myself? What's the life that I want to live? And how can I go about doing that? And are there societal structures put in place that try to prevent me from carrying out the type of life I want to live? And if that's the case, what do I do to change that? So a lot of this, I recommend first, just start having that internal dialogue. Start having conversations with other people, right? About the self-work that they're doing. Think goals and dreams and visions that they have or had. Right, so as we begin to do that work in our world, our inner world, our being, as I said, that's then going to affect the community and our leadership. So at the end of the day, where does all of this go back to? Right, at the end of the day, when we're talking about community, leadership, the episode I did, I keep saying yesterday, it feels like yesterday, the episode that I did last week, where I talked about the faith, religion, telling our story, being a model for our children. At the end of the day, at the core of that is us. It's what we do as individuals. So Dr. Joy DeGruy says we have to look in the mirror. How are we showing up in the world? To ourselves, before we can be honest to anyone else about who and what we are, we have to be honest to ourselves. And I say that because for years, I was not honest with myself about who I was. So I was showing up in the world how I thought others wanted me to show up. It wasn't until I started doing the work that I was like, no, that's not who I am at my core. And I need to work on that. I need to show up how I need to show up. Then I'm authentic, then I'm real, then I'm being genuine, then I'm being the real me. If I'm showing up how other people want me to show up, I'm not being true to who I am. And it's gonna crack. People are gonna begin to see who exactly I am. Instead of putting up this facade of who I think I should be, according to whomever, that facade will begin to crack. So I had to go within, begin my healing journey so that I can show up how I'm supposed to show up. So before we can talk to our children, before we can tell our story, before we look into the role of faith and religion, before we say we got to change the spirit of the community, before we even look to leadership, we have to first look in the mirror, right? We have to first look and see, how are we showing up for ourselves. So to do that, to start that journey, Dr. Joy DeGruy says that first symptom that something's wrong is that vacant self-esteem. So we have to look at ourselves and say, okay, I have maybe some self-esteem, some internal issues, maybe from childhood, maybe from past relationships that I need to work on. And once I work on that, I become a model for my children, right? Because they see mom, dad working through issues. So, wow, mom and dad, and be honest, right? We're not perfect. None of us are perfect. And so if you also are trying to show this image of perfection into the world, that's going to get exhausting and draining. It's much easier to be you. It may seem hard, but it's much easier to just be you. And as you start to do that internal work and other people start to see it around you, and I'll tell you this, when you start to do that internal work, some people will gravitate towards you. And some people say, oh my God, I love the person you're becoming. Other people will say, who does she think she is? Right? As you start to get healthier, as your body, mind, and spirit really you see it all as one. And you take care of it and you're like, listen, I'm gonna love all of me, not pieces of me. And I'm gonna set the vision that I want for my life. Not everybody is gonna support that. Because some people, truth be told, liked you when you were a little messed up, when you had a lot of drama. Some people like that. They fed off of your negativity. Or they looked at you and said, well, at least my life ain't like that. But they said they were your friends, but they were thinking, at least I'm not dealing with what she's dealing with. And your misery actually made them feel better about themselves. So when you're going on this healing path and you're feeling better about yourself, not everyone is going to feel that same type of way as you, right? Because as your life starts to improve, they realize where they are and they can no longer leech off of your energy, off of your whatever pains and traumas you've gone through to help kind of elevate them and make them feel better about themselves. That's no longer there. So that's going to have an impact on them. But guess what? That's their problem. You did not come to this earth to carry out their mission. You came to this earth to carry out yours. As I said before, can't save people. People have to save themselves when it comes to their healing. I'm not talking about the government part. That's a whole other story. I did talk about that in the last episode, but I don't want to get on that tangent because I gotta stay focused. Right? So we've all came here to carry out a mission. And part of that mission is for us to begin to heal and grow. And we can do that. And that's what this whole Healing Element podcast is about. It's about healing from trauma that you experienced directly and trauma that you inherited. So I hope that this whole series was helpful to you. I hope that especially for those in the African-American community, hopefully it kind of helped you to understand our community and why we have certain outcomes, that it's not just because there's some type of inferiority there. It's like, no, there's a structure that's been in place for us to be a bottom base. But in knowing that, also knowing that the story continues, and this doesn't have to be the way it is. That as we start to do that work on ourselves, that it then affects those around us, thereby creating the shift that we desperately need. And we can do it. You know, we came from a lineage of people that were enslaved, that had nothing. And because they knew if they continued to push through, that they could create a better life for the next generation. And that's something that we need to hold on to. All the work that we do today, all the work we do every day of our lives should be to create a better life for our children. So that means dealing with trauma, and that means we're dealing with a system that is meant to oppress us. That's the work. It's the continuous work. It never stops. And unfortunately, for those that say like, I'm tired of this race conversation. Yeah, but that's the reality. That's the reality of the society that we live. So we have to deal with it to make sure our children know how to deal with it. But you're not in this alone. We are in this together, and we have our ancestors that are there rooting us on and supporting us to say, listen, we didn't do all that work for nothing, so y'all better go ahead. So we can do it together. So guys, thank you so much for joining me for this series. Again, I hope that you found it helpful. To find out more about Kaii Marie, please visit kaimarie.com. To learn more about the Healing Element, please also go to my website. While you're there, make sure you sign up to the Journey to Healing newsletter. It's a bi-weekly newsletter, which I provide information for you to help you begin your healing journey, start your healing journey, manage your stress. So you guys stay tuned. Remember, every Wednesday right here, a new episode will drop. I will check in with you soon. You guys got this. You got this. You got this. You control your inner world. Don't let others. Bye, guys.